Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom, where we explore the inner workings of our bodies with the hope of emerging a bit wiser, and maybe just a bit more amused. I'm Ethan, your faithful chronicler of the human condition. Some say I specialize in pointing out the obvious, but I prefer the term pragmatic observer.
And I'm Alara, the designated problem child of natural health. If there's a concept to be sliced, diced, or stir-fried with a dash of sharp humor, I'm your chef. Today, we're diving into the world of cognitive health, something we probably all take for granted until we can't remember where we left our keys. Or, in my case, my dignity.
Dignity? You still have some left?
Rumor has it there's a piece somewhere under the couch cushions, but I haven't had the motivation to look. Actually, let's talk about motivation and how it ties into exercise. Because, let's face it, half of us need a search party to find the inspiration to work out.
I'm the sort of guy who thinks about exercise the way a cat thinks about water. Necessary sometimes, but let's not overdo it. Yet I've been reading up on how crucial physical activity is for staving off cognitive decline. Seems it's more than just a matter of dropping a pants size.
Right. It's also about not dropping your ability to remember your own phone number. Before we scare people, let's set the stage with some context. Globally, about 47 million people are living with dementia. That's about the population of Spain. By 2050, that number might soar beyond 131 million.
So basically, everyone you meet in the grocery store line might be at risk if we project far enough into the future. That's quite unsettling.
And among those various forms of dementia, Alzheimer's disease ranks high on the chart, responsible for 60 to 80% of dementia cases. We're talking amyloid plaques, tau tangles, the works. It's like the cosmic decoration kit you never wanted in your brain.
Which leads us to one of today's big takeaways. Exercise can help us dodge, or at least delay those menacing tangles. Dr. Mercola, in his typical fashion, has pulled together interesting research about how movement, even a little, even if you're not ready to run a marathon, can boost cognitive speed.
Yes. A study from Penn State College of Medicine found that daily physical activity, regardless of intensity, improved cognitive processing speed by approximately 60 milliseconds. Now, 60 milliseconds might not sound like a fireworks show, but it corresponds to feeling cognitively about 4 years younger.
I'd settle for reversing the clock even a year. Think of all the extra jokes I could muster if my brain worked a millisecond faster.
A millisecond can be the difference between a good punchline and an awkward silence, so I get it. But the idea here is that we're not talking about intense Ironman training. Just daily movement, whether that's sweeping, gardening, or power walking to catch your dog that's escaped down the street.
So we can say that while all the fancy footwork and intense workouts are beneficial, the humble daily stroll also matters. Because what's really happening here is that physical activity revs up the physiological arousal in your brain. It's like flipping on a brighter light bulb in your head.
I love how you said physiological arousal. That's a nice G-rated term for we're awake now. The brain becomes alert, like a cat that hears a can of tuna being opened. More alertness translates to better focus, which translates to better performance on tasks, like symbol matching.
Symbol matching is that test where you respond to specific images and see how long it takes your brain to figure it out. That's often used to gauge processing speed.
Exactly. And if 60 milliseconds doesn't dazzle you, consider it's not just about a fleeting perk. Over time, if we keep up that daily movement routine, we're keeping our brains in better shape, potentially avoiding long-term decline.
Which leads us to the next major piece of the puzzle. A 2015 study highlighted how exercise, both aerobic and resistance training, keeps your brain function up to snuff. Things like running, cycling, and lifting weights can beef up your hippocampus and other brain areas.
Beef up your hippocampus. I never thought I'd compare a brain structure to a muscle, but here we are. The hippocampus is vital for memory and navigation. When you get lost driving to the supermarket, blame your hippocampus.
Yes, blame that hippocampus for ignoring your GPS. Now, the study found that exercising significantly improved spatial learning and memory. We're talking about the part of your brain that says, yes, I remember how to get from my house to the store without circling the block 6 times.
Just to be fair, it's not always just the hippocampus. Sometimes we also forget to open our eyes while navigating. Kidding aside, the improvements in memory and spatial orientation are connected to real structural changes, new neurons in the dentate gyrus, better synaptic plasticity, and a surge in BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
BDNF, for short, is like the VIP pass for your neurons. It helps them grow, form connections, and keep the neural party going. So, more BDNF can lead to better memory, faster learning, and fewer "where did I leave my phone" moments.
Don't forget insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1. It's another big player in the brain-boosting saga. Combined with BDNF, you get a potent brew that supports neuroplasticity. That's the ability of your brain to adapt, reorganize, and create new pathways.
And all of this is from consistent physical activity. It's not just the domain of triathletes. Something as simple as sustained walking or moderate resistance training can stimulate these changes over time.
So the next time someone tells you your membership card at the gym is gathering dust, perhaps you can say, I'm not ignoring it, I'm simply preserving it until I can optimize my BDNF surge.
I'll let you deliver that line. My comedic timing is 4 years younger now, but still might not be quick enough for that comeback.
We'll test you later. Let's pivot to another study which found that resistance training, especially, could be superior in promoting cognitive health. That's good news for anyone who prefers lifting a set of dumbbells over pounding the pavement.
Yes, a systematic review in Aging Research Reviews indicated that resistance training gave older adults a more substantial cognitive boost than aerobic training. And the best part is they required lower doses of exercise intensity to see real benefits.
That means you don't necessarily have to become a bodybuilder. Even a modest regimen involving resistance bands might do wonders, especially for older individuals, to keep that mental edge.
So for all those folks who think, I can't do hours of cardio, here's a friendlier path. Pick up some bands or light weights and spend a little time each week doing resistance exercises.
Just don't skip leg day, cognitively speaking. Your balance and coordination are important too. Plenty of them rely on good brain function.
And for older adults carrying a few extra pounds, these benefits still apply. The studies showed they could see significant cognitive improvements even at lower activity doses.
So if anyone is waiting for a sign, this might be it. You don't need an Olympic training schedule. What you do need is consistency, plus a willingness to at least try that sweaty activity.
Now, shifting gears slightly, let's discuss the pilot randomized controlled trial that used cycling in mild to moderate Alzheimer's patients. It turned out that regular aerobic exercise might slow or stabilize certain aspects of cognitive decline.
They had these older adults, average age in the mid-60s, ride a stationary bike. And the results were encouraging. The typical progression of Alzheimer's would see a larger jump in cognitive deterioration. But the cycling group's decline was notably slower.
In fact, over 6 months, that group's Alzheimer's Disease Assessment Scale cognitive score rose only by about 1 point instead of the expected 3.2 points. That's a subtle but meaningful difference.
It suggests that even for individuals already experiencing mild to moderate Alzheimer's, aerobic activity, like cycling, can help preserve cognitive function. That's huge, considering the limited number of effective treatments available.
What I find fascinating is how exercise may curb some of the classic Alzheimer's hallmarks, such as those amyloid plaques. Or at least it helps reduce the processing of amyloid beta that forms those plaques.
And it's also beneficial because it addresses inflammation and oxidative stress, two big bullies of the aging brain. By promoting cardiovascular health, the brain gets more oxygen and nutrients, which can help slow the progression of degenerative changes.
The study specifically mentioned that while global cognition seemed to stabilize, certain specific domains didn't show a long-term improvement. But hey, not everything is going to change overnight.
Exactly. Even small wins can be life-changing. And the fact that it's safe and feasible for older adults to engage in these activities is another point in favor.
So let's give the big picture. If you're an older adult, or if you're younger and want to plan ahead for your future cognitive health, you've got multiple exercise pathways that can support your brain, both aerobic and resistance training.
And any movement helps. If your dog needs a walk, that stroll around the block could be your daily deposit into your cognitive bank account. It's no longer just about toned calves. It's about toned neurons.
I love the concept of a cognitive bank account. Are we earning interest, or does inflation get us there too?
If you skip too many workouts, you might end up paying interest instead. Let's talk about how to fit more movement into daily routines.
The usual suspects: walk whenever possible, take the stairs, dance while doing chores, chase after the ice cream truck, whatever gets your heart pumping.
And some more structured approaches. Maybe walk briskly for 30 minutes a day, a few times per week. Sprinkle in some weightlifting or resistance band sessions.
Balance and flexibility exercises like yoga or Tai Chi can also calm the mind, improve posture, and maybe help you remember not to hold your breath while you're in warrior pose.
Yes, that moment when you realize you've been clenching every muscle in your body for 30 seconds. Let's not forget combining physical and mental engagement. Dancing, for example, requires you to remember steps and coordinate your body.
That's a double whammy. You're working physically and mentally at the same time. Or, if dancing's not your scene, do a walking book club. Listen to interesting podcasts or audio lessons while you move.
And if you can, take it outside. Nature, sunlight, a bit of fresh air. These can all amplify the mental health benefits. Sometimes just being in a natural setting helps to calm stress hormones.
Which segues perfectly into the next portion of our conversation: how to support your mitochondria. Because if your mitochondria aren't happy, your cells aren't happy, and your brain might just wave a white flag eventually.
Right. Mitochondria are the energy factories in your cells. If we were cells, I'd be the mitochondrion that's always caffeinated.
That clarifies so many things about our dynamic.
Precisely. So, to keep mitochondria humming, it's wise to watch out for 3 major toxins that can throw them off. First up, excessive linoleic acid, or LA, found in vegetable oils and processed foods.
For the uninitiated, linoleic acid is the main omega-6 fat in things like soybean oil, canola oil, and a range of processed snacks. Overconsuming it can harm metabolic health and the gut microbiome.
Translation: if your breakfast, lunch, and dinner revolve around chips, fried foods, or processed packages that have an ingredient list longer than a CVS receipt, you might be giving your mitochondria a hard time.
Then we've got endocrine disrupting chemicals, or EDCs, courtesy of microplastics, phthalates, BPA. Basically all the goodies in modern packaging.
Love that you call them goodies. They're more like stowaway gremlins messing with your hormones, especially estrogen receptors. This can raise intracellular calcium levels, fueling the production of peroxynitrite, a nasty reactive oxygen species.
So it's not just about recycling, it's also about limiting plastic usage whenever possible, seeking out safer alternatives for food storage, and reading labels so we're not ingesting a credit card's worth of plastic every week.
I'd prefer my credit card to remain in my wallet, not in my intestines. And last but not least, electromagnetic fields, EMFs. Everything from our smartphones, Wi-Fi routers, and more can activate voltage-gated calcium channels, letting too much calcium flood in.
When that happens, we get more oxidative stress. More stress leads to potential damage of brain cells, and that in turn can accelerate cognitive issues.
So to keep mitochondria comfy, maybe keep electronics off your pillow at night, switch devices to airplane mode when not needed, and see if you can reduce exposure in small, practical ways.
Let's circle back for a moment. We've touched on daily movement, specific exercises, and the importance of avoiding toxins that can sabotage your cells. It all ties into slowing cognitive decline, or at least giving your brain its best shot at staying sharp.
Yes, and let's remind everyone that while the big fancy term is neuroprotection, it really boils down to daily habits. The power of consistent, moderate exercise, mindful eating habits, and a bit of environmental awareness can go a long way.
I think the message is you don't need an advanced degree in neuroscience to fight cognitive decline. A good pair of walking shoes, a set of resistance bands, a fresh approach to meal choices, and limiting toxins. That's the gist of it.
So if you're trying to preserve your wit, which apparently some of us are trying to reacquire, or you want to keep those neurons nice and spry, look at your daily routine. Small changes can yield big results over time.
I've decided my approach to mitochondria support will be to not eat an entire bag of greasy chips in one sitting. Progress, right?
Progress indeed. You might also consider a few push-ups. Just don't blame me if your arms stage a protest tomorrow morning.
And perhaps I'll carry my phone in my pocket less, or at least turn it on airplane mode while I pretend to do those push-ups.
Every little bit helps. And ironically, we might find that the hardest step is just getting started. But once we do, our body's reward system often encourages us to keep going.
The brain is funny that way. It's like the machine that wants you to feed it the right data: exercise, healthy fats, minimal toxins. And once you do, it responds by clearing away the cognitive cobwebs, letting in that fresh mental breeze.
So that's the gist of Dr. Mercola's message today. Your brain is like a garden, and exercise is the water and sunlight. The toxins are like weeds. Remove the weeds, keep the soil healthy, and watch your mind flourish.
I'm hoping the mental flora in my head includes a succulent sense of humor that doesn't wither too quickly.
It's holding up so far. On that note, thanks for tuning in to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom, where we geek out over the wonders of the human body, one neuron at a time.
And maybe provide a little comedic relief along the way. I'm Ethan, your calm companion on this ride.
And I'm Alara, your somewhat caffeinated guide, wishing you sharper thinking, stronger muscles, and a dash of humor to brighten your day. Until next time.